Hello everyone and welcome to the #1 Zelda podcast in the world, the Hylian Gamescast. In this episode, we will be discussing the Kokiri in Zelda Breath of the Wild, or the lack of, and officially beginning our giveaway of an autographed, signed copy of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild by Patricia Somerset, the voice of Zelda in Breath of the Wild, and Sean Chiplock, the voice of Revali and the Great Deku Tree. As most of us know, before Breath of the Wild released, Aonuma gave an interview where he mentioned their decision to remove the Kokiri and replace them with the Koroks. Now that the Creating a Champion book has released, we actually have more information, including concept art of the Kokiri champion and more. Before we begin this discussion, I want to remind everyone that we are giving away a few signed copies of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The winners will be chosen by Patricia Somerset herself, the voice of Zelda in Breath of the Wild, when she comes back on our podcast. The games will be signed by her, Sean, the voice of the Great Deku Tree, and Revali, and we are working on getting the other voice actors who we have worked with before to sign them as well. We have a video coming out soon explaining all of the details, but for now, we have two ways of entering. One, simply comment your question for Patricia on the last video we had with her. She will answer her favorite questions from the comments of that video, and at the end of that Zelda mailbag, she will select the winners of the giveaway from those questions. A second giveaway is specifically for our Patreon supporters. If you support us on patreon.com/GameOverJesse, you are automatically entered. If you are a Patreon supporter and comment your question for Patricia on the video linked below, you'll be entered twice. Depending on how well this goes, we may even give away more autographed copies. Thank you for your support, and since this video is about the Kokiri, to receive a shout out at the very beginning of our next video, answer this question in the comments below. What forest temple or forest themed dungeon item is your favorite, and why is it? An example being the beetle from Skyview Temple in Skyward Sword, the hero's bow in Woodfall Temple from Majora's Mask, or even the fire rod from the Skull Woods in A Link to the Past's Dark World, which is the Dark World's version of the Lost Woods. Comment your favorite and why it is your favorite. We will pick our favorite answer and give you a shout out at the beginning of our next video before asking tomorrow's Zelda question to receive a shout out on the following day's video. Yes, this is going to be a reoccurring segment on all of our videos going forward. Similar to our Zelda mailbag where we answer questions from you, this is your chance to answer our questions and win prizes. For a better chance of receiving a shout out and winning, screenshot your answer and post it on Twitter tagging all of us with #HylianGamescast and #ZeldaMailbag. If you just want to copy and paste the tags, they will be in the description below with our Instagram and Twitter usernames. Remember, this is different than our Breath of the Wild giveaway. To enter that, comment your question on the last video we had with Patricia for her to answer. Not a question for us, a question for her to answer. If you seriously want to win the autographed copy of Breath of the Wild, think of a unique question that you don't think she has been asked, or at least not asked 1,000 different times. Something that you really want answered. Obviously, she has been asked the same questions hundreds of times, so give her something unique that you think she has not been asked. And now, I apologize for the extended intro, but we are giving you an opportunity to win an autographed copy of Zelda Breath of the Wild from the voice actors, and to have your questions read and answered by them. So it would kind of be ignorant to complain about it. I mean, who doesn't want a signed copy of Zelda? Hello everyone and welcome. I am Jesse, or GameOverJesse as all of you may know me. Here with us is Gibbs and our amazing co-host, Daniel. Yes, Geek Apprentice Hookshot. she's ready for the giveaway. Also, oddly enough, this box that I got for you, because I sent Daniel and Kayla box. The other stuff, it literally has Hookshot written on it.
It is a hookshot.
I guess it is maybe more than a coincidence. I don't know. Anyways, so in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a lot of the returning races, like fan favorite races, made their return, like the Zora, the Koroks, the Gerudo, the Rito, the Gorons, but
the other one too
that was absent was the Hylians, because they were all dead.
They were gone. They were all dead.
Yeah. No, so the Kokiri were absent, but from interviews before the game actually came out, and then we actually seen images and concept art of it when creating a champion book came out. But Nintendo originally had the idea to include the Kokiri race. The Kokiri would have had their own champion that would have replaced the Rito champion. But then a caveat to this was because they had no Kokiri in the game, because there were going to be Kokiri, there was going to be no Koroks, which kind of brings up a bit of confusion later on, because I think Nintendo's thought was we can't have Kokiri and Koroks in the game.
Yeah.
But then they ended up having the Rito and the Zora, which are basically the same thing, one being an evolution of the other. So I don't really know why they didn't include it, but originally, instead of finding 900 Koroks everywhere, you would have had presumably the same amount of fake Master Sword pedestals, or pedestals of time, similar to, in the interview, Aonuma mentioned it was similar to A Link to the Past. The Lost Woods had the fake sword pedestals, to where you would go through and you would try to be finding the Master Sword, but you would find these fake pedestals. And they actually reused the exact same goddess pedestal that they had from Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
For some reason, I think a very smart decision on their part, they decided that it didn't make too much sense to have hundreds of pedestals just all around Hyrule for no reason. Maybe if they had them all set up in the Lost Woods in the same way they did with A Link to the Past, then they could maybe have like a dozen fake pedestals to where like you have to go through, and if you try to get the wrong one, then it'll just kill you. Kind of like when you try to pull out the Master Sword in Breath of the Wild, you need to have a certain amount of hearts where it'll kill you.
Does it kill you like you imagine it kills you, like it just explodes and you die, or
no,
like you just like, pick it up and then
no
like
matter
just
how many hearts you have, you just can't take out the sword. Like it's there to like deter away evil. So basically,
you keep trying and it just drains your heart slowly.
Yeah, kind of like, but you just never pull it out. Like it always inches out to maybe make you think, oh well, maybe if I upgrade, get another heart or two, then I could pull it out. And it's not until you find the real one, to where, or like maybe you do something to unlock something, and then all of the fake ones disappear, and you're able to see the real one. I don't know why, how they would have implemented it. That's the best case scenario that I could imagine for having the different pedestal of times throughout Hyrule or just the Lost Woods, and that's strictly based on what they did with the Master Sword in Breath of the Wild and how they had the pedestals in A Link to the Past. But presumably they would have been spread out all across all of Hyrule, and then maybe that would have been interesting as well, because then like you don't know where the Master Sword would be located because there's pedestals everywhere. But anyways, they ended up replacing that concept with the Koroks, which is kind of fun because it gives you little mini puzzles to do, throwing rocks or solving like trees or whatever it is. Like there's some neat ones to where you have to move blocks to solve puzzles, or you have just like a bunch of different little puzzles that you have to solve. It's really cool.
Like throw the rock in the rock circle.
Yeah, which honestly I think is a better idea than just having like, oh, there's a fake pedestal.
There's another one. Yeah, I think that would get pretty boring.
Yeah, like why are they here? Who knows?
Like even with the Korok seeds, like there was a pretty limited amount of diversity. There was like maybe 6 or 7 types of Korok puzzles. And then if there was like even just only one thing instead, like that would just be that would just be boring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they ended up replacing the Master Sword pedestals with the Koroks, and presumably with the Koroks in the game that led them to think, okay, well, if there are Koroks, then we can't have the Kokiri. So they ended up scrapping the Kokiri forest, turned it into the Korok forest. They scrapped the Kokiri champion, gave us not a Korok champion, but a Rito champion. And then the Rito were added to the game as well, because originally the Rito weren't in the game. The main item that the Kokiri champion had was a whip, which I guess is a callback to Wind Waker, because on... No... Is it Dragon Roost that you get the whip? I forgot where...
Dragon Roost, you get the grappling hook. There's no whip in Wind Waker.
Oh,
though.
yeah,
There's a whip in Spirit Tracks and Skyward Sword, though.
Yeah, but it's used the same as the whip in Skyward Sword.
Pretty much.
Because, like, you throw them on the piece of wood or, like, the lever that's sticking out, and you can either pull the lever back or use it to swing back and forth. So, yeah.
The grappling hook is better, though. There's just more you can do with it, in my opinion, but...
Yeah. And the another item that is on the same image or the same page that they showed that didn't make it into the game was the hook shot or the claw shot, whatever variation they had. It was the original weapon of the Gerudo champion before they replaced it with just a boring sword.
No, it's a fancy sword. It's not boring.
Debatable. But yeah, like they said that they took out the hook shot because it made the game like, I guess they thought it was too powerful or whatever to where you would just be going through the game. They gave the example of Link basically being Spider-Man, just grappling on anywhere that he wanted to. So they replaced a cool item with the fancy sword, as Daniel says.
The only problem I find with that is that you always needed something wood to hook onto.
You got wood today.
Yes, I did. I'm building a new desk.
Yeah.
You could use that to hook onto it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I don't think the desk will hold me up, but I can try it.
It's worth a shot.
It's worth a hook shot.
It's worth the hook
Yeah.
shot.
But I mean, in Breath of the Wild, there's so much wildlife and so many trees and houses and stuff. Like, I think there's enough wood in the game. It's not a sentence.
Also, it would have been really cool if like an enemy popped up to where they had a hook shot, and then they could hook onto you. And if you have a wooden shield or something, maybe it would like pull you towards them to where like you're stunned for a second, or it would take your item away, similar to when you use the hook shot in... Or is it the hook shot? What weapon is it in... No, it's the grappling hook.
The grappling
Wind
hook.
Waker.
In Majora's Mask, I think you used the hook shot for...
Yeah.
Wind Waker, you can take items from enemies. Like, they'll give you the joy pendants.
That is the
and
grappling
stuff.
hook.
Yeah, so maybe, like, if there's a Yiga member, they could use their hook shot or grappling hook. And if you don't have a shield or something that would pull you towards them, maybe they would take, like, your banana or something.
Not bananas.
Yeah, so basically that's the concept. Kokiri were originally in Breath of the Wild, replaced by the Korok. They decided they did not want a Korok champion, so they gave us a Rito champion, because they could not have Kokiri and Koroks in the same game because Nintendo doesn't think that makes any sense. Yet they gave us the same evolution of the Rito and the Zora in the game, which is literally the same thing as going from the Kokiri to the Korok. So I don't
But they also
know
gave
what that
us
is.
Bananas in the game, so...
Yes. They also took out the Minish, another forest type of thing.
Daniel's gonna die.
I like the Minish. They're a really neat race, and I think Breath of the Wild's pretty big already. Shrinking Link down just...
They didn't want to... Okay, so imagine how big Breath of the Wild's Hyrule is already. Imagine shrinking down to the size of a Minish, and then having a world that's 100 times bigger to explore.
This is too big. Too big for me.
Imagine trying to climb the highest mountain as a Minish Link.
Oh, you're froze, Gibbs.
Your video.
Yeah, there you are.
You're back. You're back. You've snapped back to reality.
So tell us your thoughts on all of this before we move on to the next thing. Froze again.
Am I good?
No, you look frozen. Yeah.
Or either that, or you're just really good at sitting still. I'm gonna
Now
try
you're
it.
good.
Yeah,
Alright.
I've been sitting here for an hour. You haven't noticed me. I can move really slowly. No. Okay, you don't catch it. Okay, I'm good.
No,
Anyway.
we got the reference. Avengers.
I was just trying to sit still.
Okay, my bad. All right, getting back into subject. I kind of wanted to see the Kokiri back. To be honest with you, the Koroks doesn't really do it for me. Even though they have the little nice side quest of finding 900 Korok seeds, and if you
Which
do,
you did twice.
because I'm stupid, I know. Anyway, I was bored. Okay.
Oh, Gibby.
It's interesting just going around the entirety of Hyrule just to get those seeds.
I mean, did you use the Korok mask at least?
Nah, they're pretty easy to spot.
I mean, yeah, they are. Like, I think without using it on my last playthrough, I still got about 600 of them without even
Yeah.
really trying to look for them. Like, without going out of my way, I would just see it and I was like, okay, I'll get it. But I mean, even still, I explored like the whole map. I felt like I was tripping over them every 10 feet, and I was still missing like 300 of them. So,
The Kokiri, I think they have a bigger, more lore to them, or it's a race that actually I would like to see around or back into the
Do
series.
you mean more lore compared to the Koroks, or more lore compared to the other races, like Gorons and things?
I mean, as in compared to the Koroks.
Okay.
Even though the Koroks are supposed to be the true embodiment of the Kokiri, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, we know the Koroks are transformed from the Kokiri.
Yeah.
Like we actually witness that evolution, but we never witness like the evolution from, like, one of the books says that the Hylian children ended up becoming the Kokiri, but then there's other examples to where it says the Koroks became the Kokiri, and then they just took on the form to help Link while he was in Kokiri Forest. So this is another example of the books being wrong, just because they're But
constantly
continue,
contradicting themselves. So yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know why I just like the Kokiri more than the Koroks, but I digress. Let's go back into the hook shot not being there, or the whip not being on there, because traversing Hyrule as it is with the paraglider, it's actually pretty cool. But imagine you're able to actually hook shot from tree to tree, or from the plains or anywhere else.
Hook shot. Or if you could like you know, when you're on the paraglider and then you let go and you pull the bow out and it goes into slow motion, but that with the hook shot, and then you just go shooting across somewhere.
Or
That'd be real
you know,
cool.
the whole like they did in Batman Arkham series, where he is gliding and he uses his grappling gun and just shoots straight up again, get a little bit more airtime. That would have been cool. But whatever, Nintendo, thank you. It was still a good game.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about the Rito were introduced to replace the Kokiri champion, and we ended up getting the flying bird Varuto, or no?
Bird.
What was it? Valmeadow was the
Valmeadow.
Yeah, so what kind of divine beast do you imagine for the Kokiri, and where would it have been? Some people suggested that like a Korok champion would be introduced as DLC for Breath of the Wild, because it was like it was the only race that we had that did not have its champion. So some people thought maybe there would be like what's his name would be like the Korok champion, the one that you trade all of this stuff to.
Hestu?
His name. Yeah, Hestu.
Okay.
Just because he's the one that stands out.
The champions were in the game chosen by the royal family as people who are like very skilled, either skilled warriors or otherwise in their races,
but he
right?
can dance.
Most okay, Hestu.
No. So here's the thing.
He has an unusual mastery of the maracas.
No,
He's a very amazing
here's
mastery.
the thing. And when people are like marching out for war and everything, like when you see like older takes on wars, they have the soldier drummer boy, right?
Okay.
So like Hestu could be like the maraca to like get everyone's battle spirit up.
The actual problem with this, as funny as that is, though, is that the most Hylians, Link is kind of the exception. Most Hylians cannot even perceive the Korok's presence.
So they would be invisible. They could just
like,
do
they were
an all-out
surprised.
attack on the Yiga, and they would be.
They're invisible to Hylians. Like
It would be like a million tiny John Cenas attacking the Yiga clan.
Oh no. Anyways, I think it's same with the Kokiri, is that most people didn't think they even really existed in the era.
Okay, Daniel.
Outside of
Here's
the forest,
the real question. And this is so I need to interrupt you for this. Would you rather fight against a bunch of tiny Korok-sized John Cenas or one John Cena-sized Korok?
Is this the duck-sized horse versus horse-sized duck scenario? But
yes,
but with John Cena and Koroks.
Because either way, they're going to be invisible. So, because John Cena and Koroks, they're both invisible to normal people.
I feel like one John Cena-sized Korok is basically Hestu. Yeah.
But this would be a more aggressive. This would be a more aggressive Hestu.
That's who I choose, because you can, like, I don't know, like swarms of things are very scary to me. You know, like I see, like there's this level in Donkey Kong Country Returns, and there's like a swarm of spiders that chases you. That shit keeps me up at night. Okay, like swarms of things, like swarms of bugs and things like that scare me. So like a swarm of 100 little John Cenas. I just imagine I'm trying to run away from them, and I'm like climbing a tree to escape, and just a bunch of them just start like climbing up the tree after me.
No, so they have Abigail in the chat says she's dying laughing. So you're talking about spiders, like in Phantom Hourglass or No Spirit Tracks. They have the giant spider that like chases you from through the tunnel.
One giant spider, not that scary.
But
like a million tiny spiders terrifies me. That's so scary.
They had it in the Deku Tree to where like 3 or 4 spider eggs will like fall down and hatch baby spiders.
That's not a swarm.
But then Twilight Princess has it to where there are like tons and tons of them. So
still not as freaky, I guess. I don't know, because you can go in and just but like in the Arbiter's Ground in Twilight Princess, there are those certain areas, there's those like swarms of bugs that cover you and they cause you to walk slowly. Those don't even really damage you, but
they are annoying.
They are so like just from a visual standpoint, for me, that's so much scarier. I don't know what it is, just it just gives me those heebie-jeebies. Yeah.
All right, do we have any final thoughts on this before we move on to the next one?
I think also part of the thing with the Kokiri versus the Koroks is like I think a lot of people have more of an emotional attachment to the Kokiri, because not just nostalgia, but also like their role in the game. Compare Wind Waker versus Ocarina of Time. Wind Waker, the Koroks are basically a pit stop race. Like you come in, the Koroks got a problem, you go solve the problem, you leave. Come in, the Rito got a problem, you solve the problem, you leave. You know.
Wait, do They give you the seeds in Wind Waker, don't they? No. So
no, I mean there's some side quests that involve them.
The trees
they're trying to
everywhere.
grow the trees.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So like there's some side quests that involve them, and there's Makar and everything. But I mean their relationship with Link is very insular in the same way that other races are in other games. Like, you know, you go to Death Mountain, Goron's got a problem, you solve the problem, you leave, and you go to the next place, right? That's where the Koroks, your relationship with them in Wind Waker. And Breath of the Wild, they're basically like a Easter egg. Like you find them all everywhere, a little secret, like plot MacGuffin sort of thing, right? The Kokiri in Ocarina of Time, they're your home race. Like they're your village of people. They're your best friend, your childhood friend is Saria, who's a Kokiri. So like there's a lot more emotional attachment there because the game from its start is grounded in that small community that you're having to embark out of. So I think that's why, for me at least, a lot of times when there's almost like I want to see that sort of that Kokiri race come back, because it's like, as I think conceptually I like the idea of the Koroks more because they're more unique, but there is definitely like a stronger emotional attachment to the Kokiri instead of the Koroks. Thank you for attending my TED Talk.
All right, so what kind of divine beast would you imagine?
I actually think that Varuta would have been a Kokiri divine beast, and that we see the concept art for like a giant whale one, and that would have been the Zora's one instead. And that when they kind of
you think the elephant would have been
the
Kokiri?
Elephants are not that really water themed. Like they're not really water themed. They can have water-ish features.
I'm pretty sure in some type of mythology they have some correlation with water.
Sure, but like everybody drinks water. I think possibly that, or Valmetto before the Rito were introduced were probably Kokiri as well, because with a lot of the Kokiris, what they're associated with, like as far as all the elements go, wind been an association with them. The Forest Temple was kind of combined with the Wind Temple in Ocarina of Time, for example. Yeah. There was the Forest Medallion has a wind symbol on it. The Koroks use wind to travel, like they have their little propeller leaves, and the Wind Sage was a Korok as well. And so there's a bit of a correlation with the wind there, and Valmetto is essentially Wind Blight Ganon is the elemental boss you fight, right? So probably makes sense in my head that
basically Mega Man.
Yeah.
Because when I think, because he has like the cannon blaster with his arm, so like it just makes me think of like a stereotypical Mega Man.
Mega Man. But yeah, I think it's probable that may have, like before they introduced the current lineup of champions, that either Valmetto or Varuta would have initially been assigned to the Kokiri champion. If Varuta was, then I think that sort of concept art of the whale divine beast would have been for the Zora. But things got shifted along. But it makes sense as well that they kind of replaced the Kokiri's presence with the Rito anyways, so it makes sense that they would take on that role of the wind-based race. Plus they're bird.
Link should have used... Now, I guess it would have taken... Like, you wouldn't have necessarily needed it, but I imagine, like, the Koroks had, like you mentioned, the leaf they would spin around that would, like, lift them different places, which is basically the same thing that Rivali's Gale does for you. And then in Majora's Mask, when you become a Deku, you basically do the exact same thing. I guess they are like interchangeable to where like you can either be a Deku and like shoot up in the air from a Deku plant, or you could be Rivali's Gale or have Rivali's Gale and it literally do the exact same thing.
I miss the Deku as a race as well. They were also really neat and unique. Yeah. Sort of a rival forest race.
Yeah, it would have been a lot better instead of having those annoying Octoroks all over the place.
Yeah, they could have had the Octoroks still like in the water and everything, and some of them on land. But I feel like the Octoroks that we see on land in Breath of the Wild and in Skyward Sword are. I was like, these are basically Deku scrubs. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, and then they could have just used the same Divine Beast and just like changed some of the puzzles around to where instead of whatever, it would use like a whip. Like you would need to use a whip or something. I don't know. Anyways, Gibbs, you get the final thought before we move on.
Final thoughts.
Yeah.
Now that we've spent like half an hour on this topic.
So I would have liked to have that well implemented into the game somehow. The one we see on Hateno, is it?
The Ancient Tech Lab?
Yeah. Hateno Tech Lab, I think it is. The Ancient Lab is for Robbie.
Kala. Yeah.
Anyway, somehow, there's that correlation with the wind that Daniel was pointing out. So maybe the meadow would have been, even the name, it's referring to Meadow from Meadow from Wind Waker, which was a Kokiri. Kokiri turned into the Koroks, so...
No, they don't.
What?
You're telling me a magical elf child can turn into a wooden, invisible John Cena creature?
Yes.
Alright.
Because magic.
And I bet you're also telling me that a fish can turn into a bird.
Because... science?
Yeah. Alright, no, finish what you were saying though, Gibbs. Before we move on, I'm trying to find, for the people in the chat, I'm trying to find the concept artwork so I can show you guys the Oh, Gibbs has it. There we go.
Winner!
Can we make you bigger? Yeah, there we go. So we have Link with the short sword, great sword with the weird looking Goron, spear with the Zora, the little whip with the tiny little Kokiri person who doesn't look like a Kokiri child. It looks like an adult Kokiri. And then we have the male Gerudo with the grappling hook. That is the same one they have from Spirit Tracks. Who's the bad guy in Spirit Tracks? Do you guys know who I'm talking about?
Chancellor Cole, and then there's the Burn guy.
Yeah, I think it's Burn. He has a similar weapon to where he has like a weird hook shot, grappling hook thing.
Does he? He's got his his little hand thingy. Yeah.
And it's the same thing that Gerudo has. So it's interesting that like even the lesser played Zelda games, like the DS ones, still had things carried over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Gibbs.
So yeah, like I was saying, there's the agreeing with Daniel, and there's that correlation. So maybe that was supposed to be for them. And I don't know. Maybe even the Ritu wasn't supposed to be in there. But God knows. Only Nintendo knows. So, yeah, I think that implementation on that or the concept art of the crab. There's that giant crab Divine Beast concept. I think that would have been pretty cool to see on there. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Nintendo. Next game.
I guess.
Bring the hookshot.
Daniel, we can move on to your Metroid news.
Yes, let's do that.
Metroid.
Metroid. So, to do a new intro, or do you want to just hop right into it? What do you want, Jesse?
You can just hop into it. I can put like our own little intro whenever I do the question for it to put at the beginning. So
great. Yeah. Well,
Hey everyone, it's me again, Elia Rose. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the GameOverJesse channel, please consider purchasing a GameOverJesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much, much more.